Hello, lovelies, Lady Pelvic with Pelvic Gaming, and today's a special day because you're getting a 2-for-1. You're getting a review of both Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. Because they connect so well and they're one linear story, I figure why not put them in one giant review. I was so excited for this review, I decided to dress up a little bit, you know, my dual lipstick here and my shirt. I figured this was appropriate for the review, so let's jump right into it. Seasons and Ages came out February 27th, 2001 on the Game Boy Color. I played it on my handy-dandy 3DS. I played this game when it first came out, but I didn't beat it. But rest assured, I beat it, I connected the games, all is well in the neighborhood, y'all. And just something of note, I played Ages and linked my Seasons game. If you do it vice versa, things are just a little different. You still get the same amount of content, just things are teeny tiny different. In both games, Link is wandering the land where he finds the Triforce, which sends him to a new world. In Ages, he's sent to Liburnia, in Seasons, Holodrum. Both adventures take off in a similar way. The oracles of their respective games get kidnapped by the main villain of their game. Neru, a gentle songstress, and the Oracle of Ages gets found and possessed by Varan, the Sorceress of Shadows. Din, a fiery dancer, and the Oracle of Seasons was traveling with a band of Hyrule Knights, disguised as performers, when Onyx, General of Darkness, snatches her. Both villains aim to bring either sorrow or destruction to each game's world. In Ages, Varan uses her powers of possession to mess with the past, which negatively impacts the present. In Seasons, Onyx has the seasons spiraling out of control, having different sections of the map experience offbeat seasons. In both games, Link seeks the guidance of the Maku Tree, who explains to Link that he must find the 8 essences of time or nature to defeat the evildoers. A fun and unique thing about these entries in the Zelda series is they're linked. Pun totally intended. What I mean by linked is, once you beat one game, you get a secret code which carries the linear story forward onto the next game. You get added cutscenes with familiar Zelda villains, and see the true scheme of the villains come to fruition. Playing the Link version of the game, characters from the game you played first visit the new world, and you get a little more insight about them. I found it fun to spot familiar faces while adventuring. While Zelda isn't exactly known for its far-out stories, Ages has a bit more to offer than Seasons. The characters had a smidge more depth and personality. The story halfway through takes an interesting turn of events. I truly found the characters in Ages to be slightly more endearing. Now the meat and potatoes of these games, the gameplay, which doesn't stray from the standard Legend of Zelda puzzles. Instead of magical plastic surgery using dead people, or sailing in search of One Piece, or going full-on furry, this game's shtick is either traveling through time, past and present, which is a common convention for the Zelda series, find a time portal, jam out with the Harp of Ages, travel through time. Or, a more refreshing twist, controlling the seasons. Both mechanics are used to fix the town people's problems, and navigating the map to find the next dungeon. In Ages, areas that crumbled in the present were booming with life in the past, or you met people's ancestors. In Seasons, as long as there's a tree stump, with a flick of the Rod of Seasons, you could change the season, which changes the environment. In summer, water dries up and vines grow. Spring makes flowers bloom. Winter has snow and freezes bodies of water, and fall causes mushrooms to be ripe and leaves to hide holes. Exclusive to the Oracle series, new fun companions are introduced. Dimitri, the swimming Dodongo, Ricky, the boxing kangaroo who jumps cliffs with ease, and Moosh, the bear with wings, helping pass treacherous pitfalls. Later in game, Link gets a flute, and depending on what conditions you meet first, depends on what companion you'll have for the rest of the game. The Oracle titles also bring back the trading system of Link's Awakening. Give a person a unique item in exchange for another to land a special item at the very end. Another unique mechanic of this game is Gacha Seeds, which you plant in fertile soil, and after a certain period of time, they grow into a Gacha nut, which has some sort of prize. Common prizes are rings, which can be appraised by Vazu Jewelers. Appraise a ring to see what buff it grants, but remember, rings do nothing unless equipped. The ring system is criminally underrated. Utilizing rings saves ya life. Less damage from falls, spiked floors, auto recovery rings, throw bombs farther, raise attack power but also take more damage, which I personally liked because I like to live dangerously. You could also come across rings by bumping into a notable character, Maple, an apprentice witch who flies around, and if you bump into her, several of yours and her items will scatter. Grab as much as you can, as it's like a quick minigame of finders keepers, losers weepers. If you are the one person alive who has never played a Legend of Zelda game. It's an action-adventure, action-puzzle game. You go through the dungeons and solve puzzles, find keys that allow you to advance. You'll stumble upon a unique item and fight the final boss of that dungeon, usually utilizing the special item, then lay claim to one of the essences of time or nature. The only thing that bummed me out, which is typical of any 2D Zelda game, is you're only able to have 2 items equipped. So you had to visit the menu to rearrange your items quite frequently. That, and in each game in the later dungeons you got a better version of an item you already had. It wasn't the same excitement of getting a new tool altogether. I like when upgrading items are optional, more like a reward for exploring. One thing that was pointed out to me is Naru is the Oracle of Ages, and in Zelda lore, Naru is the same name as the Goddess of Wisdom. In the game Oracle of Ages, it had more puzzle solving. It racked your brain using that knowledge and wisdom. In Oracle of Seasons, which has Din, the Oracle of Seasons, she shares the same name as the Goddess of Power. Where Seasons lacked in puzzle solving, it made up for brute force and boss battles, or power. That's not to say there was less dungeons or puzzles or enemies in Ages or Seasons, it's just when I say puzzle, I think it's less about attacking and more about figuring out how to expose the boss's weakness, versus pure attack in Seasons. Puzzle power. With my experience, I found the Oracle games to be very challenging, especially Ages. There is one dungeon in Ages where I was hand-holding the guide. I thought I made a breakthrough, 2 minutes later, I needed the guide again. It was awful. Of course, it was a water dungeon. Ages shakes up your brain to the point I got a headache after a while. Seasons, on the other hand, I breezed through. There is a third Oracle, Feor, the Oracle of Secrets. She shares the same name as the Goddess of Courage. However, her purpose is to stand behind a counter all day and input secrets, totally getting shafted out of her own game. Feor is featured in both Seasons and Ages, managing secret codes I used to beef up Link early in game. Not only do secrets add and continue the story, but they bring item upgrades, and or straight up new items from your previous game. Just like dungeons, most bosses were challenging, or at least creative. If you're familiar with the Zelda series, you'll see plenty of familiar villainous faces. Literally.
Get it? 'Cause he's a face.
The graphics. Beautiful and colorful sprite work. Cutscenes, while very few until the end, were beautiful pixel art. Unique characters stood out like a sore thumb, and it was awesome to see traditional Zelda races as pixels. Both lands, Labrinia of Ages and Holodrum of Seasons, were both kind of unique. In Ages, when you travel from past to present, I find the past is more muddied colors, giving it an unhappy atmosphere. Seasons excels when you change the seasons. The entire environment, colors, and landmarks change. Spring was vibrant with flowers blooming, while winter utilized cool colors. Also, another amazing thing that these games did was incorporate a new world, or at the very least, detailed the map in a very unexpected way, particularly in Ages. And while not a spoiler, it took me by surprise, and I hope for those who haven't played this title get surprised by it too, so I'm not going to touch up on that too much. But in Seasons, the Temple of Seasons sinks to a new underground world called Subrosia. It's a decent sized map and has a very particular look not found in the above world, lava and volcanoes being everywhere. Awesome little fun fact, limited to Oracle of Ages, was the change of terrain in the Noon Highlands, based on what animal companion you ended up with. If Link had Ricky, the kangaroo, there were cliffs. Unfortunately, I had Dimitri and the lands were flooded with strong currents. And Moosh, which meant that there were pitfalls everywhere. I found this to be a clever and fun little touch. Dungeons were great. I didn't feel like any dungeon was particularly lackluster, save for maybe the first dungeons, but they're the first dungeons. Each level applied different puzzles, like playing with light sources or riding carts, or heavily incorporating the worst element in dungeons known to man that ironically we're 60% made out of: water. Lastly, the music. The Oracle titles bless us with a charming 8-bit track. From the overworld, towns, dungeons, boss battles, it's all delightful. In Ages, I feel like they took the music a step further. When you have to travel from past to present, there's a notable difference in tone. Take Linnea, for example. In the present, it sounds happy and lively and the villagers are content. Whereas Linnea in the past sounds quite the opposite. The song is slowed down in a dreary rendition of the present. And this isn't limited to only Linnea, but other areas like Symmetry City or the Overworld. Classic Zelda tunes make a comeback, of course, like the item soundbite, or the Goron theme, but in 8-bit. Or visit the Windmill House, which plays a timeless classic. Where the game really brought it home though were the dungeons, as each dungeon had its own music. 8 dungeons per game, totaling to 16 dope dungeon themes, not including the final dungeons and the optional Link dungeon. My favorite track is the 4th dungeon in Ages, the Skull Dungeon. It's more upbeat than the other dungeons, while still keeping its sinister tone. Although, truly, I think the final dungeon in Oracle of Ages is slightly more endearing. But if you want to hear it, you need to play the game, or be a lame-o and Google it. But for now, please enjoy the Skull Dungeon. Honestly, both of these games are solid entries in the Legend of Zelda series. I give it a 9.5 out of 10 because of a few nitpicks. Like in some later dungeons, you get upgraded items or upgraded weapons of weapons you already have, so it's kind of like, I miss just throwing it in the fountain, you know, call me old school, but a little tangent. You remember in Twilight Princess where you got a second hook shot? I hate when Zelda games do that. You get like another of the same item, or you get like an upgraded version of that item in a later dungeon versus taking an old item and throwing it in like a pond or a fairy fountain and answering some questions and get the upgraded version. I want a brand new thing. When you get brand new equipment, it opens the door for even more puzzles rather than like, it's the same puzzle but like slightly harder. And then more of a hardware limitation where you can only have 2 items equipped at a time, meaning you had to go in the menu all the time to switch your equipment out all the time. I just felt like it halted the adventure and action of the game, you know what I mean? But honestly though, the puzzles, the boss battles, the new races, the ring system, all fantastic. The ring system was excellent, like missed opportunity for Breath of the Wild, man, seriously. If you are a diehard Legend of Zelda fan like yours truly, this is an entry you simply must play. Before I go, my question to you is, who's your favorite Legend of Zelda companion? I'm quite partial to Navi, probably because she was my first companion, nostalgia, you know. But I really do love Eslo, the sassy mentor, and Ricky, the boxing kangaroo, is awesome. As always, thank you very much for watching. Top box is more of my reviews like this. Bottom box is my Let's Play channel, playing Danganronpa. We are on the second case. Your love and support is everything. Mwah. I've been trying to play more Legend of Zelda games because I really want to do a Legend of Zelda top 5 favorite and least favorite boss battles. The only games I'm missing are Zelda 1 and 2, which mentally I gotta get myself there because I look at those games and I think they look awful. And then there's the CDI, which I don't acknowledge, so I'm only missing Spirit Tracks, which is next to play in terms of the Legend of Zelda games.